Good afternoon. Hell on earth would have been to meet the person you could have been. What's the first thing that came into your mind upon registering the initial quote? Well, there are a gazillion ways to look at it, but if a theme of potential stood up, then that's what I'd like to talk about a bit today here in this video. I'm not sure whether it was one of the former US presidents who said, do what you can with what you have where you are. And although it sounds nice, it is hardly an easy thing to do. Simple, but definitely not easy. See, you hear statements like these almost everywhere, yet each of us will act totally differently. Have you ever been in a position where you immerse yourself in a certain topic, manage to consume just about anything there is to know about it, and then, when it's time to share your thoughts with other people, you freeze up and a sudden feeling of panic knocks on your door? Suppose that I'd like to express myself through this medium. I tend to believe that everything needs to be perfect in order for me to embark on a creative journey. I need to have the perfect idea. My personality has to be on point.
No signs of struggle, eh? The time needs to be perfect. The weather. It's not the right season yet. I need the perfect tools. I don't have the energy.
The constellation of stars must be perfect. I mean, you name it. The list goes on forever. There are times where I'm telling myself that I just need to do it the right way from the very start. But guess what? I don't even know what the right way is, nor even the wrong way. As of now, in some sense, I know no ways at all. It's sort of like needing to read a manual first. Funny thing is, we did and learned plenty of stuff in our lives on our own, without knowing all the details beforehand. For instance, how did we learn to turn ourselves as toddlers? How about walking? We've probably fallen on our butts more times than it's reasonable to count. Don't even get me started on learning how to ride a bike or learning some type of dance. Maybe at this point it's time to remind ourselves of one fundamental observation. The key to sucking less at things is incremental improvement through conscious repetition. Well, I don't exactly know to what extent babies are conscious, but hopefully you get the idea. So, here we are. After quite an indecent amount of years, I finally got myself to record and publish my first video, with the belief that once I start, my brain will start to look for solutions and progress will organically appear over time. I do have to admit, though, that it is a scary feeling when you realize that you don't want your dreams to be crushed. So it'd be easier for me to be like, I'm so good that if I was in front of the camera, I'd be just spitting one thing after another. And now, as I'm trying it, I realize that it actually bombs. Bombs. By the way, don't you enjoy this? Isn't this the coolest vid you've seen all day? It's coming along quite nicely, isn't it? It's not? It blows? That's the point of this. A couple of years ago, I have came across one Korean movie which to this day happens to be one of the most powerful movies I have yet the chance to watch. I highly suggest you to give it a shot. It's called A Moment to Remember. One scene in particular, I think, is worth mentioning here to perhaps better illustrate the notion of discovering our own unique value and being fine with, well, taking the plunge on things in whatever state we find ourselves in. The old man, father of the main female protagonist, is having a private talk with his son-in-law. Main male protagonist, and yes, you guessed it correctly, the husband of the old man's daughter. It goes somewhere along these lines. Did you know that Jesus was a carpenter? It is a holy vocation. Do you know how you can spot the difference between a real carpenter and an imposter? Go to a specialized store and observe. You will see many of the imposters there. They all complain and whine about the wood, whether it concerns a grain, moisture, or a weird shape. The real carpenter sees character. What is the character? Its potential. The character will give you a hint. The real carpenter is able to see it. And it's the same thing with people. I sincerely hope that I didn't ruin this scene, or better yet, the entire movie for you. Now, it makes no sense to me to bother you with my own interpretation of this sequence, so I'll leave that on to you. Last but not least, I do have to note that I'm likely not the only one who sometimes values potential more than the actual results. Remember when you, for example, heard from others at some point in time that you're going to change the world in some significant way. There have been countless others who fell into this trap. Picture this monologue, which has been brought up by one fine fellow. You're, let's say, 22. I'm the young kid with potential, and I'm gonna change the world. Then you hit like 25 and you're like, changing the world any day now. And then you hit like 28 and you're delusioning yourself once more. You know, I'm not even 30 yet, but any day now, I'm going to change the world. And by that time, you might have actually done a bunch of stuff. Or not. And then you hit 30. And that's when you're like, didn't change the world yet. I'll end this clip with a reference from The Wolf of Wall Street, Mr. Jordan Belfort. You are not the mistakes of your past. You are the resources and capabilities that you have gleaned from your past. Have a good one. I think it was good. Reasonably good. By the way, don't you enjoy this? Isn't this the coolest way you've been very ill? Yes.